Hi, this is Kevin from Stock TA. I'm recording this video on Sunday, January 12th, 2025. The title of this video is Gold and Silver Stocks Bottoming. We're going to investigate the technical analysis to see, you know, what the charts are showing us. And just a reminder that this is not investment advice. This is for educational and informational purposes only. And I'm not a registered financial agent. And please consult one before you put a dollar of your hard-earned money into these crazy markets. Also, I might own some of these positions, so these are not any buy or sell recommendations. So if you go to stockta.com, you go to the watch list, pull up, you have different, I create different sector watch lists so you can look through and see very easily how stuff is looking. First, I want to investigate gold. So GDX is neutral, but if you look, it looks like it's starting to bottom and it closed at 35.97. Has medium support at 35.31. You want to start to see these kind of numbers. You want to see double-digit support numbers to show when something is starting to base and go back up. Slight resistance here, medium resistance here, medium resistance here. So, it's been a little range bound from 35 to 30, a little under 39. But you can start to see, RSI is not oversold, the MACD is starting to cross back over, and it's starting to regain some signal strength. Some of the stuff was bearish to end the holiday, and start of the new year. Tax loss season is over. You have some holidays in Asia where people buy gold, so demand picks up. So quarter one, start of the year, seasonality for gold, in the past couple of years has been, pretty decent, and, can provide a little bit of a tailwind behind you. GDXJ looks not as good as GDX, which would make sense because usually the majors would lead your way out of, a correction. If you look, this is still bearish across the board. It has bottomed a little bit and starting to turn back up, but if you look, the support numbers are not as high, and there's a lot more overhead resistance. But GDXJ has a lot more torque, so when it moves, it does move a lot quicker. It's just got a lot more risk involved. Next, I want to look at some individual stocks. This is AGI, Alamos Gold. That is actually bullish short term. If you look, the chart's starting to look pretty good. RSI 57, MACD starting to turn over. If you look, it has some pretty good support numbers, 19.45, 19.02, 18.06. So this could be bottoming, and there's not a lot of overhead resistance. So this is one of my favorites on my watch list as I head into this week. Kinross Gold has already kind of broken out. RSI is at 63. If you look, the chart's starting to get a little stretched. Medium support at 9.29, more medium support at 9.77. It's at 10.44. Not much for overhead resistance, so it could be a good momentum play, but it's still neutral across the board. And there's not much for, medium or heavy support in the short term, right underneath it. BVN also looks like it's starting to bottom. This one closed at 12.7, has medium support at 12.48. Not much for overhead resistance until you get to almost 14. So that chart's looking pretty decent. MACD starting to turn over. RSI is only at 55. Some of the technicals are starting to get bullish. So that's one I'm watching. At Nico Eagle, one of the biggest majors for gold. Looks like it's already kind of broken out a little bit too, like bottom at 77. You look, there's medium support here, medium support at 81.87, more medium support at 83.43. Not much for overhead resistance. RSI is only at 58. But you can see it's kind of been a buy at 75 and a sell a little under 90, and we're getting, so could be a little more upside, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Goldfields, neutral across the board, closed at 14.73. But if you look, has major support at 14.40. That's a really high number. That could show that this is really starting to base. RSI is only at 59. MACD starting to turn over. Has medium resistance at 15.40, but not much above that until you get up into the 17s. So this could be one, if the market continues to sell off a little bit, whether that's the inflation trade or the US debt spiral or any of those factors that have been a headwind or a tailwind for gold in the past, couple of years. This one that is one that could really move really quickly. AU, another major, is neutral, but if you look, closed at 25.98, has medium support at 25.53. So medium resistance at a little under 27, 28, 29. So there's some overhead on that stock. But if you look, it looks, that's a really solid number, and that's one I really want to keep an eye on. Barrick, ticker gold, bearish, looks really terrible. Not much for support, a lot of overhead resistance. Negative scores and a bearish trend is never good. RSI is at 40. So I'm not touching this one, but I just wanted to point it out because I know this is a popular gold stock. B2 gold, also bearish overall, neutral short term. Looks like it's trying to bottom, 2.46, 2.58 had medium support. This one has some more medium and, overhead resistance. So I'm not touching this one either right now, but I am keeping a close eye on it. SIL, which is a silver miners ETF, doesn't look very good. Bearish across the board. Not much for medium or high level support. A lot of overhead resistance. So I'm not touching that right now, but silver does look interesting. A couple charts after this I want to show. PSLV closed at 10.14, neutral overall. Heavy resistance at 10.24, so only 10 cents higher. So I'm curious to see if that breaks above that, that could turn into a major support level. 10 is a medium support level right now. So that's one I'm keeping an eye on. MAG, really bad setup. Bearish overall, very bearish in the short term. Closed at 14.04. Has heavy resistance, very heavy. 24 is a very high number at 14.16 and then 15.49. So if you combine those two, it has a lot of overhead resistance to try to break above 16. Now, it could eventually get there, but it might take a couple tries. And if you look, there's not a lot of heavy support. So that's one I'm not doing anything with right now. AG, bearish overall, bearish short term. It's trying to bottom, but again, medium resistance 5.86, medium resistance 6.12. So that's kind of immediate, overhead resistance and not much for, any medium or heavy support underneath it. SVM, bearish across the board, not much for support. Looks like it's trying to bottom at 2.89. That's the number to keep an eye on if you're in that stock. But a lot of overhead resistance, so I'm not touching that one right now. PAAS, Pan American. This one is trying to bottom, has neutral score in the short term, closed at 21.33, has heavy support at 21.12. So if I was in this stock, I would keep an eye on that. Not much above 22.64 for resistance. So if it can clear 21.83, 22.64, this could have, some upside to it. If you look at the chart, it's kind of been range bound for the last couple months. But that's one to keep an eye on. SLV is next. This one has a really interesting setup. Closed at 27.61, neutral overall and short term. But if you look, has heavy support at 27.58. So we're 3 cents away from heavy support. That's a number I keep an eye on. If it broke below that, I would not stay in this stock. And again, it's not investment advice. It's just my own personal trading style. Has some medium resistance at 28.69. And again, silver has a lot of torque. It's very tough to trade. RSI is only at 51, but the MACD is starting to cross back over. I may look to enter this position next week if it can maintain, that heavy support. SILJ does not look very good, which makes sense. Usually the majors lead the way out and the juniors kind of struggle at the beginning of a rally. That has some heavy support, 12, heavy resistance at 12, 14, 13 for confluences and not much for major support. So I'm not touching that right now. SILV Silvercrest. I know they're getting taken over soon, but that has a decent chart for support setup, closed at 9.93, some medium support at 9.78, and some more at 9.15. And then core, interesting setup, neutral across the board. Looks like it's trying to bottom. Medium support at 6.19, so pretty close to that. I would keep an eye on that. But I just wanted to do a quick sector spotlight, check in on the gold sector, which is starting to, started to take off a little bit last week. Some really interesting setups. If you look at, the GDX, AGI, Gold Fields is one of my favorite setups right now. Major support at 14.40. Barrick looks terrible. BTG average. SIL not so great. But SLV looks pretty good, which is interesting. So I keep an eye on SLV and Gold Fields and GDX to start trading next week. Obviously keep an eye on gold and silver spot prices, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check us out at stockta.com, and you can also check us out on our Twitter handle. Thank you.